Hey, beautiful souls. Emma here, soul coach, healer, and the guide to helping you unfuck yourself from past relationships, trauma, and people pleasing. Because I know deeply that you can cultivate beautifully trusted relationships. You can embrace emotional freedom and say fuck yes to life the way that you want life to be. Today, I want to talk about the death of Wonder Woman in my life. Around, I want to say about 10 years ago, I was nearly 11 now. I was pregnant with my third beautiful babe, and I was having moments of understanding that there were some internal changes and shifts going on, and there was parts of me that needed to slow down. I didn't know how the fuck to do that, right? Like, I had no idea, but I was highly emotional. I was feeling things in ways that I'd never felt things before. So roll on a couple of years when you've had babe, daughter's about 2, and I get really sick. Like, I get a flu that lasts me months. In fact, it started with a cold. I started with just this little cold. And at this time, exercise well, ate really well, doing all the things, and all on the outside. But there was some inner stuff that needed to happen. Because what I was trying to do was be Wonder Woman. I was trying to do it all. And because I had this idea about how you have it all and what that looked like and what I needed to be in that in order to have it all. And when I say have it all, I wanted the family, I wanted the career, I wanted the beautiful friends and family. And don't misunderstand me, I had all those things, but they always cost me something. And here's what this cost me: my health. By trying to do it all on my own, and when I say do it all, I didn't really accept help from other people. I mean, I was in a relationship at the time when I really felt like I had a lot of responsibility and self-imposed. I put my hand up and to say that absolutely, I'm not going to put the blame and say it's, my ex's. That's not where I'm coming from at all. I absolutely was in this mode of Wonder Woman, thinking that I had to do it all, that accepting help looked a particular way and felt a particular way. And if you've listened to my story, you know that I have a trauma background and I've experienced it. So there's stuff around safety for me that still comes up. There's stuff around trust that it needs to be in my awareness. And so letting people in, asking for help, receiving help, really fucking challenging when you're in an unconscious way around trauma and around your background. So how did it cost me my health? Well, like I said, I got a cold. And at the time, I'd actually been seeing a naturopath for a couple of years. And there was a couple of factors which, we hadn't really figured out. But one of them was I used to get huge amounts of cold sores in my mouth. And again, doing all the things, the diet, all that kind of stuff. However, I was continually running on empty. And because I was energetically in my masculine all the time, or majority of the time, my cortisol levels, my nervous system was just running on high alert all the time. And so there was no Rancho Relaxo in my world, not a drop. The other factor was my ex was a snorer. And even with earplugs, there would be times that I'd be woken up. But this is pre-earplugs. Oh no, I think it was, I had them for a couple of years at this stage actually. And which had helped my health. I wasn't getting as sick, as tired and as run down all the time. because, you know, I want to say this to you. If you are living with a snorer, and like me, I'm impacted by that. Like, as much as I want to sleep soundly, I still can be woken up. Everyone has a different way. Not everyone's going to sleep, you know, heavy like a log, you know, dead to the world, you know, all the expressions that you can use. Not everyone's going to have that. And I am most definitely not that. Don't get me wrong, I sleep much more soundly now. I've been separated for about 4 and a bit years, so much better now. But however, if my door opens, you know, I can still wake easily, but I don't sleep with earplugs, which is really cool. I can have noise sort of around me, you know, outside noises, and which is really cool. But back then, all those years ago, my ex was a snorer, and I described it as sucking in the curtains. So even with all the earplugs in the world, it would still wake me up at times. And with that, once my naturopath actually knew that part of it, she was like, yeah, that's going to have a huge impact because I'm never getting full amount of rest. I'm never getting a full amount of sleep. So I want to say to all the snorers out there, do something about it. If you have a partner and it's impacting them, do something about it, because it impacts them. It impacts their health, their mental health, their energetic level, you know, their energy levels as well. It has a really huge impact on the people around you and in your life. So I did all I could, wear earplugs. But in saying all of that, I still was trying to be Wonder Woman. I was still trying to do all the things on my own. There wasn't that sense in our relationship. Because I was in my masculine, it meant that he couldn't be in his. I didn't know how to sit back. I didn't know how to receive at that point. I didn't know how to let him lead because I'd had to do it for such a long time. And in the early stages of our relationship, that's just how it was. He was quite happy for me to lead, and, you know, I didn't know any other way. I've definitely learned a different way since then. And even being a mum now, it's really shifted the way I lead in my family with my 3 beautiful children now. So Wonder Woman had to die. And I was getting a sense of it all those years ago when I was pregnant with my 3rd. And, you know, there was these levels of frustration in me that, you know, I can't go back and tap into now. They're just not there anymore. But I do remember thinking, oh, I don't want to do this shit anymore. Like, I could feel how hard it was. Asking for help felt incredibly hard. However, not receiving help was also fucking exponentially harder. So my health, through getting a cold, unraveled me. Because I had this little cold, which turned into something a lot bigger. It turned into, after a few weeks of having a cold, of me not being able to move through the healing part of it. I could rest for a couple of days and feel better, but as soon as I started getting back into life, bam, I was hit again. And so that turned into me having the flu. So then I was down for a week and, you know, got better, started to get back into things, and then I got sick again, another flu. And I think the first one was influenza. This next one was viral, but it was really bad. I could barely get out of bed. Temperature was so high. I wasn't able to keep food down. I was really unwell. So that's month 2. And then month 3 came around, and cortisol levels were high at this point. Because we didn't have that balance in our relationship and, you know, not being able to ask for help, my ex didn't know how to look after me, and I also didn't know how to receive being looked after either. So the other factor is it caused a lot of tension because my ex also was feeling the pressure of having to do all the things that I would normally have done, and having to hand all of it over to him. So there was a lot of frustration coming from him as well. because he was being put under a lot of pressure that he just wasn't used to, that I used to just absorb all the time in our family and relationship. And, I don't fucking recommend this. And this is not me having a go, because it's an equal partnership. Neither of us knew how to bring it back into balance. Neither of us, and I'm a great communicator, and I could tell him what I needed, but at the same time, I couldn't actually fully receive it either. So there's got to be communicating what you need and being able to receive it. So your hearing was kind of like a really messy state that I was sitting in, very confused, very, not really in a great sense of self-awareness either. And I wasn't connected to myself, so I couldn't really connect to others, and I couldn't ask for the help that I needed. So then the third month rolled around. I'm not really getting better, but I feel like I am. And then bam, I had a throat infection, a chest infection, and sinus infection. And my doctor was just like, Emma, something's got to change. And what needed to change was me slowing down. At this point, this was kind of like where I started to, look at my marriage and see where it wasn't working. And there was a lot of resentment in there as well, because I wanted to be looked after and, to almost be told off while I'm sick, and because I think at one stage there was a call that I made to him, and, it was like, I'm really unwell. And my son was in the car. Yeah, he was about 5, and so my daughter actually must have been 1 at this stage. My youngest must have been 1. And so my son heard his dad say, well, I can't come home and look after you. I've already taken too much time off. Like, you're just on your own. And I crawled myself inside. And my son said to me, don't worry, Mama, I'll look after you. And I do remember that moment and thinking, this is not what I want my life to be. But again, I didn't know how to move past it. I was quite disconnected at this stage. So I was getting all this feedback and knowing that it didn't feel right to me, but I had to have that break. And then in that, it really impacted my mental health, because it was unraveling all these ideas that I had about how I had to be and how I had to show up and who I had to be to everyone in order for my life to work. So my mental health took a dip, a huge dip as well. I stepped back from lots of groups of friends, and I really stepped back from my life. And as I started to step back into it, it looked a lot more lonely, because it had emptied out. Friends that I'd thought were really close friends and really good friends weren't really around anymore. They'd taken my, not my absence as an indication of what our friendship was about. So again, great, not people that you want in your life. Like, I get that. And however, I was still lonely within myself, because I was unraveling all these ideas, but it was awakening me as well. I was also lonely in my marriage, because I didn't feel connected to him. What I was looking for, I'd actually put some really high expectations on what I needed going forward. And I wanted someone that wanted to look after me, that could have my back in any situation when I couldn't have it all, hold it all together. So there was a space being created in there as I was shedding layers of myself. And, I was really running on this through myself. It took about another year for my health to come back fully, because, having that kind of a flu impacts you. And so, I was getting different little symptoms. I would feel really lethargic on a few days, every couple of months, and just have to really rest it out. And so this inner space that was being created was awakening something within me. And it was awakening a deeper awareness. I was always really physically aware. It was an awakening an awareness of being emotionally aware and being more spiritually aware as well. Understanding that it had all parts of it. You know, like I had to start what's going on in my head, what's going on in my body, and what's going on, you know, in my soul, my spirit as well. And all those three things had not come together before. So, you know, I was having experiences of, you know, really having to be completely vulnerable, and also understanding that I'd never been vulnerable for a very long time. And what did that look like? So what I was coming to was I didn't want to do it all. I didn't want to be on my own trying to do it all and trying to be fucking Wonder Woman. Because I got really clearly Wonder Woman had to die or Wonder Woman was going to break me. This mask that I wore about being able to do it all and have it all, it wasn't aligned with actually what I wanted and who I am, you know, as a beautiful soul and as a person in this world. It wasn't in line at all, and it kept showing up. It kept showing up how out of alignment I was. So my voice started to rise. But I want to go back to those 3 months and share with you some of the experiences that I had, because there was beautiful people showing up in my life. And I can remember one day someone messaging me and asking me a different question. And I answered them and said, oh, I can't really get back to you today. And, you know, did all of that. And then about an hour later, I had a knock at the door and I could barely get up at this stage. And so I crawled to the front door and just sat there, because that's really all I could do at this point. Not only, you know, having a chest and throat and all that kind of stuff. Like, I was wiped out emotionally, physically, I was wiped out. And this woman had come to my door and brought me some food. And I was like, oh, wow. And I started to silently cry because I hadn't asked for this help, but still here she was offering it to me. Anyway, she came inside, got me back into bed, made me a cup of tea, and then left. Because I couldn't really eat. I said to her, she had a look and said, yeah, your temp's really high. And I was on antibiotics. I was actually on, I think, the first day of them. I had to have 2 rounds of antibiotics. So, like, seriously. Yeah, because I was on the antibiotics, and then the sinus infection came through on day 3 of that. So my doctor was just like, your bodies. It's almost like I wasn't accepting the antibiotics. So yeah, I was really, really unwell, and yeah, it was beautiful just the way that she showed up. And I can still remember my husband coming home and, you know, seeing that there was food, and he was like, oh wow. And I explained that someone had come to do it, that they'd looked after me, and it felt really nice. Now, because of the exchanges that we were having, he took this really personally and took it to heart and made it about him, made it about how whatever inadequacy he was feeling at the time. And when I saw that in him, I recognized straight away that that's what I was doing as well. That when I felt inadequate in something or less than, I would project that onto the other person. And through that moment, I was like, how the fuck do I stop doing that? Because I don't want to do that. No, it was not a click of the fingers. I didn't just immediately bang, I got that. it took some time. It took some years actually, because I didn't have this straight path. You know, like when I work with clients, I can give that straight path. I hadn't found anyone that could go root cause for me and that could just go straight to it and go, here it is. And you know, and that's probably for a number of reasons. I've needed to be on the journey so that I could do that for people and, you know, really engage in my gift of insight and, you know, like learn it, grow into it and roll around in it so that I can be really powerful when I am with clients and in session. Because that's what I do, you know, I go to the root cause and we get to it and we're able to break it apart and move through it. So I kind of went on this huge windy road from there. But in that moment, I knew that's what I was doing because it really bothered me. And what my response was in that moment was I got angry and basically told him to fuck off and like, how fucking dare you? And are you fucking kidding me? It's not fucking about you. And I was so sick and so angry and so... But when I had stillness later on, I really was like, I think I do that. I think I got so angry because I do that. Took some time for me to really integrate that, because Wonder Woman at this stage was still in play. Wonder Woman was still like, I want to run this fucking show. But there was a little voice inside of me saying, I don't think you're running fucking shit, lady. And so I had to start to unravel that. But that was my awakening. Being sick for those 3 months and then having a mental health, not demise, but it really hit me mentally, because coming out of being sick and then finding out your friends aren't there, what, you know, that life had changed, which life does change. And I didn't have the mental equipment at that stage, let's put it that way, the capacity. And also, I didn't have the emotional intelligence because I wasn't able to regulate my emotions. So I had to learn a whole bunch of skills. And, you know, way back then, I wasn't finding people talking about emotional intelligence in my world all the time. I was finding pockets of it and able to, you know, start educating myself, which was amazing. But I was kind of blindly leading myself through, picking up a book here, doing a little course here, and just kept moving through it. And I'd already been, you know, about 5 or 6 years at this stage into doing personal development. Through a business that I was in, which was amazing. So little bits and pieces. And that's where that projected piece came from, where I started to go, if I really don't like that and that really pissed me off and I got so angry, that must be in me. Ooh, and that's juicy, right? Because the world is a reflection. Yeah. And you can either project it or you can use it as your mirror to say, okay, if I'm getting that, what is within me? What is within me that is attracting that? That's wanting, you know, why do I want to see that? So I was deepening my awareness at this stage, and I'm ever grateful. I mean, I didn't love feeling that sick, and I've never been, I have once. I had the flu, COVID, last year. And, you know, not as sick as I was at that stage though, but still pretty unwell. But so since, I haven't really been that ever sick. Maybe a little bit of a viral thing every now and again, out for 1 or 2 days, and then I'm back into it. Because that's the thing. Imagine living in those high cortisol levels. Well, maybe you are and you don't even know. And through that, and through listening to this, perhaps you'll start to see that you are living in a really high state all the time, and your nervous system's on high alert, and perhaps you're feeling the lethargy, or you've gotten really sick and haven't been able to fully recover from it. Perhaps it's showing up in manifestations in your body now, you know, where you've got knee or hip or back, and things are starting to show up in a way that aren't repairing. And what this did for me, this moment all those years ago, was gave me the deeper awareness to go deeper and to start listening to those whispers so that nothing fully manifested in my body. Because I used to run a lot, but I got a lot of knee problems, and I understand it's a whole nother show, the emotional connection to body and why it shows up and all that kind of stuff. But once I started to become more aware of myself and tap into, the things that I wanted to truly change within myself. So one, really deeply, was understanding I was not emotionally regulating, that I was vomiting my feelings on other people and making them responsible for them. And I'd done that in my marriage as well. We were doing that as a unit together. And it made me understand that this world that was going on within me, this high state, high, level of cortisol, doing it all, Wonder Woman, was imploding me on the inside as well. So I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to do it all anymore. I wanted to release some of the responsibility. I wanted to be personally responsible for myself. So I took a windy road, and part of that windy road, as I've shared previously in other podcasts, I'm a separated woman now. I'm divorced from the children's dad, and it is a lovely separation. We're very nice to each other. It was for the best, obviously, and so lots of good stuff has happened, and I've been able to become more aware and go deeply more into it, because deepening into my awareness is what ended the marriage, because I was changing and growing, and he wasn't doing it at a pace that was acceptable to me. And I don't actually say that that's the right thing, because you can see and hear in that I was still very much in my masculine. And, that has definitely changed. I've been able to sit back and feel into my body more and feel into my energy more and understand where I want things to come from and who I want to be and what energy I want to be in. And sadly, I couldn't do that in the marriage, and that's okay. I will always say that it was a highly successful marriage. We have 3 beautiful children. I learned immensely through it. I grew amazingly through it. And I do consider now that I have it all. Am I Wonder Woman? No. But I am a woman, and I am a wonder. That is for sure. And what that awareness and that deep awakening that it provided for me was my path to love. Now, I don't wish that for anyone. We all must come to our own awakening and our own deep love through our own experiences. However, I would say if there's something in here that's spoken to you, that you're like, oh, that's relatable, that feels familiar, and you're not in that other side of being in a place where you deeply love who you are, that you're able to receive and give help in a really beautiful way, that there is balance energetically within yourself, and there's also balance energetically outside of yourself. I don't mean equal balance, equity in balance, that you're able to move through the sliding scale of life and find what you need in the moment when you're in it. Because you can have it all, absolutely, at the same time, right? Not even like, there's no conditions on this, right? You can have deeply connected and loving relationships. Yeah. You can have an amazing, fulfilling work, career, business. And being a mum, if you're a parent, You can have a beautiful family where you don't, because I want to say this to you really clearly. One, you do not hurt the ones you love the most. Like, that's bullshit. That is an excuse for us to not be fucking aware, not grow up, not emotionally regulate, yeah, and not be accountable for our actions, for what we say, do, think, and feel, right? So I know I get really serious and my kids laugh at my angry face, but we've got to be accountable for ourselves. And when you are, you will not need to hurt the ones that you love the most. You won't. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Am I saying that right? You hurt the ones you love the most. Is that it? I hope, if I'm not, drop it in the comments, because you can have it all, because I don't buy into that. I mean, don't get me wrong, families are this great place to evolve in, because you've made a choice to be in this family and to learn and grow through them. The family that I created with my children's father, that needed to shift and change. And we're still a family, but it looks really different now. And, we still co-parent really beautifully together, but we didn't need to stay together as a family unit in order for us to evolve. Well, I knew in order for me to evolve from within that I needed to separate from that. So, but you can have beautiful separated families when you come to the space of being accountable, yeah? Of saying, hey, this is my stuff, because you do not need to hurt those people that you love so much. You do not. You can have moments, but in the moment that you behave in the way that you go, oh, that feels shit to me, you can say, oh, hang on a minute, I'm really sorry about that. I don't like when I speak to you like that, and it comes from this place. Because it's not you making an excuse. It's you saying, I'm evolving right now. I recognize that wasn't my best, and I want to say sorry that it vomited all over you. Yeah? There needs to be that responsibility. And I don't care if you're coming from a place of poor mental health or great mental, whatever it is, you can still be aware in those moments. How do I know? Because I've done it. How do I know? Because I work with clients around this. And I know they come in and work with me, perhaps not in great mental health, in their greatest mental health. However, we still have the ability to be aware within that and to see the impact that it's having on others. And I don't mean tiptoeing around but when you're in a state of vomiting and making other people responsible for your life, there needs to be some awareness in there. Yeah? If it's always someone else's fault why your life is the way that it is, if someone else needs to change around you, because I did that for years. I was trying to change my partner, change my husband for years. Yeah? Because I needed change, but the change I needed to come from within. Yeah? And so I kept putting all my stuff, well, I feel this way because you're doing this. And I lacked the accountability within that. I was learning how to do it within the marriage. And the more I did it, the more it created separation between us. Not because I wanted that, but because the more accountable I became, the more I could sit there and say, yeah, wow, I'm sorry for speaking to you that way. I'm learning not to. But I wasn't getting that back. And so that became a source of separation for us. But I was still also doing that, well, this is your fault. And the more I moved away from that, the more I got to, actually, this is what I need, and you can't meet that need. That's when I got to the space of recognizing that I was actually accountable for my needs, accountable for my wants, and I was accountable for asking them as well and receiving them. And it did get to that point. This is what I need, and I don't believe that you're going to be able to do that. And that's okay. That is okay. So you can. you can have it all. I have deeply connected and beautiful relationship with my kids now, and the conversations that we have are magnificent. I have really connected and loving relationships with those around me, and they're so deep and so rich and so beautiful. And I also have a really fulfilling, beautiful career because I chose to evolve. I chose to use that point to leap off from. Now, what took me years, I help clients do in 6 months, 12 months. It's your choice how long you work with me. So, and I also do a 6-week past trauma and toxic relationship. They're separate. Coaching. Yeah. And I love that because it's just honing in on a very specific area of someone's life. And in that shift, then it opens you up to so much more. So you get to decide how deep you go, and you'll be able to use all that beautiful learning that I moved through all, over those 10 years and the previous, and definitely the previous 5-6 years. And then I stepped into my coaching business. So you get to use this 20 years of my experience and skills and talents to evolve in a way so that you're not having to go into catastrophe in your life. You're not having to go into those dramas. You're not having to, hit rock bottom, so to speak. You can definitely do it in a much straighter route. So what's resonating for you? Is there something coming up for you now where you're realizing perhaps you're projecting, but perhaps it is your health. Perhaps you're having the same things on repeat, the same relationships, because I did. I was having the same kind of relationship on repeat. And when I got negative feedback about it, ooh, it stung. And don't get me wrong, I used to come out fighting. I was a fighter. I'd come out punching and go them back. However, now, moving through everything that I've moved through, when I receive something now that I would have perceived as negative all those years ago, it's welcome. I want to hear it. Sometimes it might be that the impact needs to go back to the person, and other times it's reflecting something that I'm projecting, and I want to know about that stuff because I want to feel good in my life. So Wonder Woman died. She died a long and painful and slow death in my life. And I definitely don't want that for you. I know we're all on our journeys, but if you're here and you're listening to this, it's for a reason. And I offer you a straighter path, and I want you to have that. And there's so many different ways to work with me. You can head to my website, and that link is below. It's just Emma Muir, Emma with one M.com. And you can head there and find out the different offerings and the ways to work with me. And, I love bringing this into business as well. It's definitely why I'm here. And I love the success that I have, because when clients finish working with me, they're on a path of evolution, and it's continuous, and they understand deeply that it's ever evolving and ever changing, and it's welcomed, and there's no stuckness in their life anymore, which is amazing. Lessons when they become on repeat. I love getting a message. I got this message from a client to say that life was no longer on repeat, and she did have something come back into her life that was on repeat, and she thought, right, I'm dealing with this now, I'm not doing it. For me, my health over the years was on repeat constantly, until I had the moment where I was like, no, I don't want this anymore. So I decided to change it. And I would love that for you. I would love to help you find your path to the truth of evolution, to the simplicity in which you can live your life, to removing the fucking complications that we create because it really doesn't need to be the way we live it, how complicated it is. We live in a complex world, but it's actually not that complicated. And I'd love to help you find the truth of who you are. So I look forward to you connecting with me. Thank you for sharing your beautiful time and energy with me today. I love to hear your comments and your thoughts. So please share and like and do all the things. And I will see you next time on Connected Conversations. And please remember to be yourself in the moment that you're in, because there's only one of you. And feel good for being it, because you're the only person that can. Mwah. Bye for now, beautiful souls.
To connect with me, head to emmamuir.com. Enjoy your day and thanks for sharing your time.